The NFL awards are actually one of the more exciting times at the end of the season for me. I know we got Super Bowl 59, but if you watch my last video about the Kansas City refs or Chiefs, whatever you want to call them, they're the same thing at this point. I'm not as excited about this Super Bowl as I have been in years past. I'm way more excited about the NFL awards to see who wins it. And of course, it's hosted by Snoop Dogg this year, so that means I'm still not going to watch it. I don't care. But I am excited to see who wins the awards, such as NFL MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, Rookies of the Year, all of that, Coach of the Year, whatever. I'm excited. And so this is exactly how the NFL awards should go, according to the smartest man alive, me, of course. Obviously, I know everything. Take it as you will. I want to know your picks for MVP down in the comments below, for Coach of the Year down below, for Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player, all of it. Let me know. And right now, let's start off with, I don't want to start off with a banger like the MVP, right? We'll talk about Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Jared Goff. I forgot who the other finalist was. Doesn't matter. He's not going to win it. But let's start off with Offensive Player of the Year. And this was interesting. I think it's going to be a runaway favorite. And the favorite is Saquon Barkley. I mean, he had 2,000 yards rushing. Didn't play week 18, so probably could have broke the record. But Ja'Marr Chase, man, he had a triple crown. How does that not win you Offensive Player of the Year? And remember, Offensive Player of the Year just stands for best offensive player that doesn't play quarterback, because that's MVP. Because we don't even have... Oh, Saquon Barkley might be the fifth guy in MVP finalist, but he's not going to win it because it goes to a quarterback every single year. And that's probably where it's going to go again this year. And so now we got to give Saquon Barkley his 2,000-yard season. We got to give him Offensive Player of the Year, just like Adrian Peterson won it when he broke 2,000 yards for the Minnesota Vikings. So I feel like this is as much as Ja'Marr Chase deserves it, because Cooper Kupp, I believe he won the Offensive Player of the Year when he got the Triple Crown. But it's not going to happen this year. It's not going to happen. Ja'Marr Chase, especially when you consider their win-loss record, that's got to play into some account. Obviously, the Eagles are going to be playing in Super Bowl 59, whereas the Cincinnati Bengals didn't make the playoffs. So that's crazy as it is. That's what happened. The LA Rams, they won the Super Bowl the year that he was Triple Crown, right? Cooper Kupp? I believe so. Correct me if I'm wrong. But Offensive Player of the Year goes to none other than Saquon Barkley. Ja'Marr Chase is in that conversation. Derrick Henry's in that conversation. But I think it is obviously Saquon Barkley. And next, we got Defensive Player of the Year. Defensive Player of the Year is tough. There was nobody who was like, oh yeah, this man just dominated on the defensive side of the ball. But the 5 finalists for Defensive Player of the Year are Zach Bond, Myles Garrett, Trey Hendrickson, Pat Surtain, and TJ Watt. I don't think you can consider TJ Watt, considering the fact that he didn't lead the league in sacks, and that's what he does best. Myles Garrett didn't do that either, so I don't think it can really be Myles Garrett, even though he had a great year. But Trey Hendrickson led the league in sacks. I think this year it goes to a cornerback for the first time since Stephon Gilmore won it, and that is Pat Surtain. He's the best corner. He's locked down. He helped the Broncos, lock it down on defense so that Bo Nix could slowly learn the offense and push this team into the playoffs. And they had quite the year. He allowed 56 passer rating against the top receiver. That's one of my favorite things about Patrick Surtain, or Surtain, whatever you want to call him, is he guards the best guy all the time. I hate, hot take maybe, Richard Sherman was not that great of an NFL cornerback because he played zone defense. He stuck to one side and had one of the greatest defensive back cores ever in the Legion of Boom. Ever. Pat Surtain doesn't have that quite. I mean, they lost Justin Simmons on the backside. All right, they did have a great defense, don't get me wrong, but it's not the same, especially when you're playing man coverage compared to zone coverage, which those Seahawks played a lot of zone instead of locking down the number 1 receiver for any given team. 56 passer rating allowed against Pat Surtain is insane. Insane. And don't forget that he played against Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert twice a year. He is him. He gets my vote for Defensive Player of the Year. Zach Bond should win the Most Improved, which I think should be an award. I think Zach Bond would get that. I think what he's done from barely making an NFL roster to being an all-pro is insane. Zach Bond gets the respect he deserves, but I think if we're looking at just the best defensive player this year, I think he goes to Pat Surtain. Let's go to our Rookies of the Year, and that on offensive side of the ball, we got the 5 finalists. of Jaden Daniels, Brock Bowers, Malik Neighbors, Bo Nix, Brian Thomas. I don't think this one needs much debating. Really, there's two candidates, which again really is very similar to last season and very similar to the Offensive Player of the Year. There are two guys, but one just had such a monster year that you can't not give it to him. We were talking about this last year. If you go watch my How the NFL Awards Should Go a season ago, we talked about CJ Stroud and Puka Nacua and how crazy of years they had. Well, now I'm going to do the exact same thing with Brock Bowers and Jaden Daniels. Okay, Jaden Daniels had one of the best quarterback rookie seasons ever, got his team to the NFC Championship game. I know playoffs don't really matter in the awards, but come on, man. You gotta factor it in a little bit. Jaden Daniels was insane. Okay, had a great season. Broke records himself that CJ set just last year. But also, come on, Brock Bowers broke all of Puka Nacua had one of the most insane receiving years ever as a rookie just a season ago, and Brock Bowers just broke all them records. I mean, are you kidding me? Most yards for a rookie tight end ever, most receptions ever for a rookie, which broke Puka's record, right? But come on, it's got to go to Jaden Daniels, right? Because he did something that is virtually impossible. He made Washington not suck at football. That's insane. That's insane. So I'm going to take Jaden Daniels here on this one. But if you want to go Brock Bowers, I wouldn't be mad at that. I wouldn't be mad at that at all. Defensive Rookie of the Year. Man, this is we get 5 selections, and it is dominated by 2 teams: the Philadelphia Eagles and the Los Angeles Rams. The Rams with Braden Fisk and Jared Verse, both in that front 7 for the Los Angeles Rams, which took a huge revamp, especially when you consider that you have an Aaron Donald-sized hole on that defensive line, and those 2 guys really stepped up and helped them out. But then you also have the Eagles, who have Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, both cornerbacks, both selected in the first 2 rounds. Come on now. They were elite this season. I think this one's Jared Verse. He runs away with it. I don't think it's super close. The impact that he had was astronomical, especially when you do consider the Aaron Donald-sized hole that they had, and he was the best pass rusher for that team. Just don't sleep on Braden Fisk, though. Don't sleep on him. He had a great season. But and these other 2 quarterbacks that we just mentioned for the Eagles are elite, and they're going to have great NFL careers. But I think Jared Verse is going to take this one for the Los Angeles Rams. Next up, we have a dumb award that I think is stupid and should be replaced with Most Improved Player of the Year. Why is Most Improved Player of the Year in the NBA and not in the NFL? And because I understand why the NBA doesn't have the Comeback Player of the Year. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. And listen to this. Our 5 finalists: Joe Burrow. All right, makes sense. He was injured a lot last season. Sam Darnold. All right. He hasn't played football at the starting level in the NFL for a few years. Makes sense. J.K. Dobbins came back off the Achilles injury. Christian Gonzalez. All right, he had a great rookie season and then got hurt, missed most of the season, and played really good this year. And then our 5th contestant is Damar Hamlin. I'm a Bills fan. Stop it with the Damar Hamlin stuff. He is actually not that good at football. He started for the first time this year, and I don't understand how. He barely made the roster a season ago. Why is he starting he's not good. He is not good. He's not good. And he died 2 years ago. All right, Joe Flacco won Comeback Player of the Year last year. If Damar Hamlin didn't win it last year, why is he even on this list? I know he's not going to win it. It's probably going to be Joe Burrow because he did have an amazing, a crazy season. One of the best in NFL history, but they just didn't make the playoffs, so they're not going to win anything else. So I think they're just going to hand this one to Joe Burrow. I would like to see, you know what, I really don't give a crap. I'm going to be honest with you. I really don't care. Make it Most Improved, and you can do it offense and defense. So offense, Sam Darnold; defense, Sack Bond. I think everybody's happier because Comeback Player of the Year, nobody cares. Coach of the Year. No, let's not do Coach of the Year. Let's do Assistant Coach of the Year because that's the big one, right? That's the one everybody cares about. So your finalists are Offensive Coordinator for the Buffalo Bills, Joe Brady; Vic Fangio, the Defensive Coordinator for the Eagles; Brian Flores, the Defensive Coordinator for the Vikings; and then Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson, who are the Defensive Coordinator and the Offensive Coordinator, respectively, for the Detroit Lions. I don't super care. If I were to, in my opinion, I would say probably give the Minnesota Vikings Brian Flores this one. I wouldn't be mad about Vic Fangio though either. I wouldn't be mad about Joe Brady either. I don't know. I think you could go any of these ways, but I think I'd take Brian Flores just because that defense was amazing. It was one of the best defenses, if not the best defense in the entire NFL, and nobody expected it. I mean, they lost their best pass rusher in Danielle Hunter to the Houston Texans in free agency. It's really hard to have a great defense when your offense isn't elite, and at times that offense was elite, and at other times it was not very elite. And especially, I mean, I'm really surprised that we don't have Dallas Turner for the Minnesota Vikings in our defensive rookie of the year, like finalist. Like he had a great year. What they did is just amazing. So I would give it to Brian Flores. But if you want to give it to Vic Fangio, I'm not mad about that either because that defense is carrying the Eagles, and it was one of the worst secondaries in the league last season. And it is much improved, and it's mostly because of the pass rushing, which is crazy considering the fact that they didn't have Fletcher Cox this year, right? They didn't have Brandon Graham most of the year. Like, these are some huge changes, and they still performed at a top level, being one of the best defenses, and that's one of the big reasons that and their offensive line is why they're going to be playing for a Super Bowl in just a week from now, or 2 weeks from now. So, I don't know. I go Brian Flores, but I really don't care, and I'm not going to say I'm super educated. Do what you want. AP Coach of the Year. This one I do actually have a strong opinion on. The finalists are Dan Campbell for the Detroit Lions. All right. They were the number 1 seed in the NFC. Had a great season. Andy Reid, the number 1 seed in the AFC. Had one of the best seasons of all time. Going to play for a Super Bowl in a week and a half. Dan Quinn, the Washington Commanders head coach. Sean Payton, the Denver Broncos. And Kevin O'Connell of the Minnesota Vikings. Even in the NBA, they don't always... in the NBA and the NFL, they don't give it to the best coach. If they gave it to the best coach, Greg Popovich would have way more. Eric Spoelstra would have at least one. All right. Andy Reid would have way more. I don't know if he has any. Like, they don't get, like, Bill Belichick would have won every year for 5 years. Okay? There's some legendary coaches that don't have any. This isn't about the best coach of the year. It's about which coach's team exceeds expectations the most. So, by that definition, I think we have to cross out Dan Campbell, and I think we have to cross out Andy Reid, because we expected the Detroit Lions to be a 1 or 2 seed in the NFC, and we expected Kansas City Chiefs to be a 1 or 2 seed in the AFC. They did that. So Dan Campbell and Andy Reid are just automatically out. But I don't think that's fair. But if you want to pick a coach of the year, by your definition, Kevin O'Connell, Sean Payton, and Dan Quinn are all good options. I'm giving my edge to Dan Quinn. Because again, just like Jaden Daniels, just like my big strong argument for Jaden Daniels, you did what was virtually impossible, and that was make the Washington football team good at football. That's crazy. When was the last time Washington won a football game or a playoff game? 30-something years ago, right? Right? And they just did it. They won not just one, but 2 playoff games, including against that number 1 NFC team in Dan Campbell's Detroit Lions. All right, Dan Quinn turned a defense around that was horrible under a defensive mind in Ron Rivera. He just proved that he's a better defensive mind, and then he got Cliff Kingsbury in. Cliff Kingsbury should also be an assistant coach of the year, and though I know him very well from his days in Arizona, he can coach an offense. All right, he developed Jaden Daniels magnificently. Like, everything Dan Quinn did, not even just during the season, but in the offseason, I think is beautiful. He knew that they needed a quarterback. They got Jaden Daniels. So GM of the year also might go to the Commanders, whoever that dude is. But bringing Cliff Kingsbury, knowing that Dan Quinn is a defensive-minded coach, and you're bringing in a rookie quarterback, you're going to need one of the best offensive minds, a modern offensive mind, and that's what they did with Cliff Kingsbury. And Jaden Daniels has just run the RPO to perfection when they've ran the RPO time and time and time again, and he just keeps making the right decision. Dan Quinn's coach of the year in my eyes. I'm not mad if you say Kevin O'Connell. I'm not mad if you say Andy Reid, because Andy Reid is the best coach in all of football. He is. He just is. Take it or leave it. But that's what I think for coach of the year. Again, stupid award. Just give it to the best coach every year. That's what it should be. All right? Now, for the NFL MVP, for all the marbles, the big bucks, the one that makes people cry, the NFL MVP. We got our finalists. I don't really care about two of them. We're talking about three of them. We're going to talk about Joe Burrow. We're going to talk about Lamar Jackson. And we're going to talk about Josh Allen. All in the AFC Northeast. Buffalo's in the north, but whatever. Let me get my notes. Joe Burrow had one of the greatest NFL seasons of all time, throwing for nearly 5,000 passing yards, which hasn't been done a ton. But he finished with 4,918 yards, 43 touchdowns, and just 9 interceptions. These are amazing stats. They didn't make the playoffs. How the heck they didn't make the playoffs is beyond me. Zach Taylor, worst coach of the year. Is that an award? They should be. You can't, no. And whoever the defensive coordinator was for Cincy is the worst assistant of the year. How do you, oh my gosh. You had the leader in sacks and still couldn't put together a defense good enough to get this offense, who had the best quarterback and the best receiver by far, not even close, couldn't even get them to the playoffs. Anyways, 4,918 yards, 43 touchdowns, 9 interceptions on a great passer rating for Joe Burrow. Now, Lamar Jackson, 6th in passing with 4,172, 45 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Josh Allen at 14th in passing, 3,731 yards, 40 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. I don't care about the stats, and here's why. Usually, I do care about the stats. If we cared about the stats, obviously it's Joe Burrow. I don't think anybody thinks Joe Burrow's winning this award, even though he had one of the craziest years of all time. But you can't do it if your win-loss record doesn't get you in the playoffs. Especially considering that we have 7 teams to each conference nowadays. There's 3 wild cards. He still didn't make the playoffs. That's crazy. So I don't think we can have Joe Burrow on it. I also think, so now we got Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen. Lamar Jackson just won the MVP a season ago. He's a 2-time MVP, looking to be the 3-time MVP. Where Josh Allen, no-time MVP, but obviously one of the better quarterbacks in our league today. Here's my decision. My decision is, oh, are you surprised? No, you shouldn't be. Josh Allen should win the MVP. Let me put my bias aside, though. And here's why. And I think Josh Allen will win the MVP. I think. More of a sympathy thing than anything else. And fatigue. Because, again, if we went off the best player year in and year out, LeBron James would have 7 MVPs and not 4. And Brady would have had more MVPs. And, Josh Allen had worse stats, obviously. More interceptions, less yards, less total touchdowns. Oh, I think those were total touchdowns, not passing touchdowns, so excuse me there. I will say the MVP race is a lot better than it was a season ago. Lamar Jackson got it, and it wasn't very great. Lamar Jackson's season this year is definitely better than his season a year ago, which got MVP. So how could he not win MVP, right? And it boils down to opinion, I think. If you say Lamar Jackson, you're not wrong. You're not. I think if you say Joe Burrow, you're wrong just because team success. I don't hate it, though. I still don't hate it because he killed these guys. He had almost 1,000 more passing yards. He did have 1,000 more passing yards than Josh Allen, who could win MVP. So if you say Joe Burrow, I'm not mad at it either. I'm saying Josh Allen because of the team success, got the 2 seed in the AFC, and Josh Allen had one of his worst rosters ever. There is no way I thought the Buffalo Bills were going to be a 2 seed this year. I thought with everything they lost, not just Stephon Diggs, but everything on defense, there is no way the Bills are higher than the 4 seed. Maybe the 3 seed because the AFC sucks. AFC South sucks. I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm very, very surprised. Very surprised at how well the Bills are. And remember, they didn't have Amari Cooper until 6 games into the season. So it's not like he had a top receiver. And I still wouldn't call Amari Cooper a top receiver anymore. He just not. Just not. Back in the day? Yes. No. So what he did is insane. He did more with less. He had higher team success with less help around him. He did not have Derrick Henry. Zay Flowers is probably better than Amari Cooper at this point. All right? And that's iffy, but Mark Andrews, let's not talk about that Bills game, but other than that Bills game, he was very, very good this season. In the back half of the season, Isaiah Likely was good in the first half of the season. So, take it as you will. I think there's just more help. The defense was better for Baltimore rather than Buffalo. But if you say Lamar Jackson, if you say Joe Burrow, I don't think you're wrong. I just think Josh Allen should win it. But I could be swayed. I could be swayed. So leave your comments down below. Let me know what you think should happen for the NFL awards. It should be fun. It might be more fun than the Super Bowl. I'm still not gonna watch it because I don't care to watch it. But I'm excited to see those Instagram or those ESPN notifications telling me who won. You know how it goes. Let me know what you want to see next. We gotta talk some Super Bowl, don't we? As much as I don't want to. I don't know, dude. I'm just a depressed Bills fan right now. That's it. I'm sorry.